All right, we are live, and I already see three people have joined us. So, welcome to the U-Turn Show, to episode number one of the Bridge Dialogue series. This is a new space we created with the collaboration of with Alaran Society to be a place where South Sudanese from different communities come together and share the stories, experiences, and perspectives that help us better understand one another. So, our goal is really to build bridges through honest conversations. And we believe that every tribe in our country, every nation, every generation, and every lived expertise has something valuable to contribute to the future of South Sudan. So we are, whether you're joining from South Sudan today or you're joining in the diaspora, thank you for being here. Please share this conversation so that more people can listen to it. We invite you to listen with curiosity, contribute to this conversation with respect, and remember that meaningful change begins with meaningful conversations. So I am your host today, Akwal Philip, and I'm joined by my colleague who will be co-host, Isaac Bulding. And also we are joined by great mind, great spirits of South Sudan, Nelson Kwaje and Dr. Thong, who will lead this conversation today. Will start us off on this conversation today, Dr. Jacob Atem. So before I take all the time, I want us to get started. So share this conversation, and I'll start with Dr. Jacob to first introduce himself. There's so many titles there, and we are real eager to know about you, your background, but more importantly, about your community in South Sudan, where you're joining from. Do you consider your community as a tribe, as a nation? What are some of the cultural values, some tradition or practices that you would like other communities of South Sudan to know about this conversation? So, Dr. Jacob, take it away.
Thank you. You guys can hear me, right?
The audio is good, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Akwal Philip and Dr. Isaac and Nelson and the audience that are watching. My name is Dr. Jacob Atem. I'm originally from Jonglei State, and then I was resettled in the U.S. in 2001 as one of the Lost Boys of Sudan. And so I came here when I was 15. Then most of my time here, I got my education. I am a public health practitioner. I also run a nonprofit that we've been working in South Sudan for the last 18 years. It's called Southern Sudan Healthcare Organization, where we say we bring health and hope to where it is lost. And so currently I go back and forth to South Sudan doing my humanitarian work. And currently I am in Florida. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that brief and concise introduction. Over to you, Nelson. Take it away.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nelson. Part of what is called Bari Speakers. I'm based in Juba, South Sudan. I've been based here for the past 6 years. My work is mainly on technology and youth engagement and development. I run on like few outfits. One of them is the Seniors Hub, which is a youth empowerment hub in South Sudan, one of the most active actually. And I also am the lead for the Digital Right Frontlines, which is an organization that works on civic engagement in the area of technology and human development and expression. So I'm based in Juba. In my community, I'm the Secretary General of the Fujulu Cultural Festival. I think a lot of you heard of the Fujulu Cultural Festival.
Yeah.
So I'm the
Yes.
gentleman who does a lot of the administrative work to manage it. Thanks.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that sounds like really impressive. Yeah.
Well, not to interrupt, but Kwaje, I'm a big fan of Pajulu culture. So I grew up a lot in many areas like uh, Yei. I have a lot of Kwaje friends here. But one of my favorite songs is that Pajulu Protocol. I had
Yes.
a niece. Yeah, I had a niece who is married to Pajulu. And man, when they play that
um,
Pajulu Protocol, I'm like on it. I'm like, that's one of my favorite. I always feel like I'm from Pajulu, so it's good. Kwaje is well known that area of Pajulu, so it's good to see you here.
So it's quite
Thanks.
I thought it was just a name of your father, but it looked like it's a cultural name. Can you speak to that? I'm just curious. Now you've taken conversation to the next level.
Yeah, it is a cultural name. So Kwaje it means basically night. So we have two versions of the name. The same way you have in the Dinka, you have some names that have two uh, uh, Abul or Bul or whatever other names.
Yeah,
So for us,
yeah,
so Kwaje is for a man, and then Tukwaje is for a lady. Kwaje basically means someone who was born at night. So my dad was born at night, and then we have that is the name that it carries. But also the name had there are a few notable people who had carried this name. So sometimes people actually name it as a part of paying cultural homage to some leaders. So we have the famous South Sudanese, renowned South Sudanese politician Samson Kwaje, was a very leading cadre in the SPLM. So he also has that name, and I think that kind of carries the name. And I had it's the name of my dad, and I had carried that name also. Probably like in my late years, when I became a bit older, I made the name a bit more prominent because I had to truncate some other names in between my name and the surname to have that.
Wow.
Okay, very
Wow.
interesting.
That's very rich.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that is the origin of the name.
yes. The identity is very important. So
Hello.
as part of the
Yeah.
culture, we have 16, 17 names. If I could go Jacob so and so, and you have your nickname there. So I grew up in Jesh Ahmed with a lot of Kwaje. So we would know like it's always Pajulu, just like another Dinka name, Dang Bull are common. So yeah, the identity is important, particularly in South Sudan, in a good way. That is good to know where you came from, the root for the understanding. Even in the biblical days, you go to Matthew and say so and so begotten so and so. What they do is to identify where they belong. Even recently, I was reading about the Daniel, Meshach, and Abednego, right? And so those are Hebrews boys. They have their name that was given. That's the Israelite name, but you call people by their proper identical is really important. It's part of culture that is very, very important.
And just to build on that, you actually lead us up to the question of identity. Dr. Jacob, could you please talk more about what does national identity mean to you personally? And also, how can we like embrace our tribal, our ethnic identities while at the same time strengthening our, South Sudan identity, whether we are back at home like Nelson Kwaji or we are based in diaspora like yourself? And same question I will ask Nelson Quadri to expand on it.
Well, thank you. Identity and unity, what it mean to me is, so when in my early years, I grew up in a cattle camp in a place called Twitch East County. I think
Yeah,
Nelson
he
dropped.
will come back on there. I think it's a Nelson.
So I grew up there in a cattle camp in early years. And to me, we have a saying in Dinka that man killa ur, I think up here beting, meaning if you haven't gone to a cattle camp, you will never see a beautiful thing. And the reason is actually those days, it was not long. It was when I was young. It taught me the things that I ended up using in life to as a survival mode. The simple thing that people do, like bullying, for example. Um, when you are new in the cattle camp, the first thing people do is we call it tumuthiang, which is it's like a horn of an animal or what part of the antelope. That tumutiang, if you are near, you're like, oh, who has the horn? And you're like, oh, Isaac has the horn. You go to Isaac, and then so and so. If you are not careful, you ended up spending the whole night finding that horn, which is it's not it's no such a thing. And so, but if you are Dungur, which is the cattle boy, you will know that say that trick is not going to work with me. So fast forward, some of those cultures were good. Later on in my journey, I became acquainted during the Sudan Civil War with other tribes. So I didn't know nobody, but when we came to, I remember being in a internal displaced camp, being in Loboni, being in Aishwa, Magali. I mean, I walk almost to Eastern Equatoria, Moli, you go to Yambio, Maridi, Agutra, all these places I have walked. Then we became better acquainted with other people, South Sudanese. It was not no longer my people from Twitch is in a cattle camp, right? But the unity that I remember was very beautiful is during the Sudan Civil War when we were in group of Jeshamer, the Lost Boys. And what was unique, for example, I'll give you two examples in Moli and more important in a place called Ngatinga, okay? And when we are in a group, you are in a one group, but it was multiple tribes that were mixed up. You don't have to belong to one particular tribe. So we are Jama, meaning we are the group, and we have to divide ourselves. Who is going to fetch the water? Who's going to be cooking today? Who's going to do all these different chores? So we didn't know the language. And but that was beautiful. We figured out survival mode. You got to figure out, right? And that kind of forced us not to look into the lens of I'm with my cousin, I'm with my tribe. It was a very smart way the SPLA did it to mix people up so this issue of identity through my tribe doesn't come up. We ended up becoming a family, we become know each other, and then we get to know the language. And I love languages. So if you go to Amel at that time, it was actually language, Arabic also. So it exposes us to get to know each other in an intimate way. And that is the beauty of Jeshamir, in which I hope we can restore that kind of thinking, that kind of how do we mix tribe to do one thing without getting into polarization of politics and what have you. And that was the unique of the Jaish Ahmed. And fast forward, even those who ended up becoming older and becoming soldiers, you are fighting next to your fellow South Sudanese. You are fighting next to your best friend from that tribe, and so I think we could. There's a hope we could still restore those um, what the unity look like. What my final example I'll give you is more extreme. I During the Sudan Civil War in early 1990s, when the Sudan armed forces were the allies, what they normally would do would ally with some militia, particularly in up north. near the Unity State, and I remember they ransacked the entire bore, and I was caught in that, and I got captured multiple times. It was a horrible genocide. Some of you may remember something called Boer genocide. And in the midst of that, my own sister and two nieces were captured in front of me. This is, mind you, this is early 1991. Fast forward, uh, I almost died. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of the thing. God just saved me. Fast forward, I'm in America. For 30 something years, I had this feeling that they either dead or they are alive. Because what I remember, I didn't think they were captured, but apparently they were captured. And later on, I learned. So for 30 years, I've been tracking my niece and my sister. And in 2022, I finally have a breakthrough. They were part of they were actually captured. The abductors was particular from Law Nuer. And then the people from Law Nuer ended up marrying them off to the people in Gawer in a place called Nyang. Okay. So Gawer is divided into two, Nyang and Thiang. So because we are one community, in the early 1991, there were people from Duquesne, and near there, they immigrate to my areas. I'm in a place called Pakir in Twitch East Payam. They migrate, and there was this guy, his name is Makir. Makidit and my brother-in-law were very best friends. And during difficulties, what you do, you need to survive. There was nothing to survive. So Makir was very, very smart. He knows how to do the spear fishing. There was not equipment to at that early 1991 because it was after the massacre. So anyway, Makir knows how to do spear, and my brother-in-law was protective of him, and Makir would give his spear out in exchange for like the net, or in exchange for the food, or he said, I'm gonna make you a spear, but if you caught two fish, give me one. It's a survival mode, right? So they became friends. So my father-in-law, my brother-in-law and I were the one that when the children were being kidnapped, it was me and him were there. So he would always cry to my kid and say, you know what? I wish Nyan Kir, that's his daughter, that's my niece, Nyan Kir was alive. Fast forward, the reason I'm saying this is a networking. Fast forward, and I told you about my niece and my sister being captured. It happened, my kid is from Duquesne, Dukpadir. And from there, he ended up, had a relationship in Gawer, which is where my sisters are now forcefully married to. So he would go to Gawer, and one time, because he was in Pakir area in early 1990s, he ran into my sister and two nieces, and Makir came back to my brother-in-law and say, hey, I found Nyan Kira. Yan is my sister, and Adum was my other niece. And for 30 years, we've been tracking. I would send them some money here, and communication was difficult back then. Quite yet, there was no technology. There was no allo. It was hard. But in 2022, I finally connect with them. They came to Ayod through Makir. And it's because my brother-in-law really took care of Makir. When he was there, during the difficulties, there's no food. It's a survival of the fittest. People kill each other. People rob each other. But my brother-in-law protected Makir. So they became best friend. So in 2022, they came. Now, I'm talking about conflict resolution. You have those who have abducted my sister happen from Law Nuer. They married my sister and niece to happen to be all of them. One actually was married to Law. Two of them were married to Gawer. So it was a difficult case. So they have their kids. My sister was married to an older gentleman, and he passed away. And because the way, like I said, the condition, they left me in, they thought that I was dead. So Ayen would have always something called a shrine because three of her children died, and the people who abducted her think that it's because they might have killed me, and I died in the River Nile. And so they make a shrine each year. They kill a bull to make sure they pray that I can change my heart so that I don't kill. They think I'm the one killing my niece's kids. So I had a shrine. And so my people from Bakir would travel to do business in Nyang, in Gawer. Fast forward, so now it came to the time that like these three people, these three families, this family who abducted them, the family who married them, and our families. How do we get together? They have their old children. So what ended up happening is I said, okay, why don't you, those who have abducted my sisters and these kids, I want each representative. I selected two from each. And those who are married them, bring two each. And I said, leave all your children behind and let's meet in Juba. In fact, I took my pastor. We met in Juba. It was very, very emotional. I don't know how to speak Nuer language, but now my sister, they completely forgot. They are speaking fully Nuer in Gawer. I only know a few words like Male, Mal Poindu, and all that. It's Mal Nogwa. And so we met. It was very emotional. And so what ended up happening, now the difficult part came. That difficult part was, what do I do? Our family was very sensitive. They said they view these people as an enemies. Do we not let them? Some people told me, do not let your sister and niece go back. And I'm like, they have their kids there. What should I do? Their kids are over there. It was a very 2 days painful meeting. And me, I'm a firm believer of Jesus Christ. There's a scripture that talk about forgive your enemy as yourself. And I read that scripture over and over again. You know, each of us has different way of interpreting faith. And that scripture got a hold of me. Forgive your enemy as yourself. Part of me, the South Sudanese is in me, it's a lot of hatred. It's I don't want to forgive. I'm like, go away. This scripture, it's not applied to me, but it keep coming back. So you see what happened is in the midst of difficulties, in the midst of darkness, you don't think there's light. You don't think there's hope. So I sat down with my family and I said, I asked them this question. If we don't want them to go back to Gawet, is there anything positive that these people have done? Name me one thing, what they have done. And the room was very silent. I said, let's give the credit. Yes, you might view them as an enemy, but let's be honest. If they had killed all these three women, would we have this conversation today? This is the question I posed to my family. And the room was silent. So I said, let's give them the credit for let them be alive for us to talk today. So I was able to convince my family, and this is what I told them. I said, hey, you know what? You go back. I am willing. We are all willing to support because at the end of the day, we are South Sudanese. It was through the regime between North and the South that used a lot of proxies to make sure the Southerners are fighting among each other. You go back, if you deem my help, our help, we will help you while you're in a new area. If you want to come back, it's up to you. I just want you guys to be free. And by God's grace, it happened. They went back, and 12 months later, my sister Ayen came back with her 12 kids, including external kids. My other niece came with 10 kids. My other niece came with another 10 kids. You add up, that's a big family. We took them in. My sister is now in a refugee camp in Ayilo. It's called Ayilo refugee camp. I'm taking care of them. I put the kids to school. My other niece is in Numali. My other niece is in Uganda. I say all this to come to the memory of your question of unity. that if we South Sudanese apply my family approach, which is individual, because here's the reality: whether I like it or not, I am an uncle to them. They may be viewed as Nuer, they may be. The reality is, I am the uncle in the Dinka side. So, what I want to summarize, I wish the South Sudanese would use our model of individual families dialogue. Because you see, what happened is you generalize. Oh, Nasda, these people are Fajulu, they are whatever tribe, Dinka and Nuer, and have you, the 64 tribe. You will never have a solution there because it's too general, it's not too personal. But when you say your heart out, like I did, we ended up forgiving each other. Now I'm educating them. Guess what? They are Nuer people. They will go back. They know where. In fact, they now they can come. That family, I build them a house. If you go there, nobody you get there other than Nuer people. I'm just an uncle doing my duty diligent. So to the conversation of belonging, unity, I truly believe, and I'm going to give a chance. Sorry, it's a long-winded answer to Nelson soon. Is that we need individualized peace. We need to forgive each other. We need to speak our mind at the family level, because if we do it at the family level, that's where we actually see true forgiveness and true peace. But if I just generalize Nuer, where do we start? Where from where? Nuer is so much sub clan. But if I just specifically my family, these three families, that model can be applied to South Sudanese. That we can forgive each other. Tragedies happen, a lot of things happen. Nobody is denying them until we turn it like Rwanda, where we speak out and say, "You have done me wrong, and I have forgiven you." It's the only time we will move forward. So, Kwaje, I'm going to give you opportunity. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I just like to give a practical example. How do you forgive each other? How can the nation move forward? How do you create unity? Now, they call me with WhatsApp in rare areas, extended families. We are one family. That can be applied to all other 64 tribes, no doubt. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very, very much for sharing that personal story to actually drive home, the point of, using, the political impact of our tribal identities to our community, challenges that we experience to bring back, the theme of, building national identity through this relational conversation. It's really powerful. And I want to give chance to Nelson Kwaji to, you know, just walk us through the same question, how national identity, what national identity means to you as a person, and how, can we embrace our different, either political or local tribal identities while strengthening our collective as a country. But more importantly, uh, to extend it to your profession of technology, how can we use modern technology and solution we have at hand or education system to really bring this ideal of nationhood, you know, that is, full of diversity. So take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Doctor, for this very touching. It takes a lot of vulnerability to share such a story, especially for a South Sudanese man. It shows that there is a lot of transformation, and even the scripture can change our hearts. Um, I had a very kind of very different upbringing. Actually, rather, I I went through several phases through my dad's life, then my life, and then probably now, because I was born in the outskirts of Khartoum in Sudan, because my parents had left early in the 80s. In the early 80s, my dad had fled the conflict in the Equatorial Belt, and then he traveled through lorries, because by then most of the travel from southern Sudan is through lorries. So these lorries come from the north, carrying a lot of goods, and then they come to the south, and also they carry some goods. So most people just kind of get hitchhike on these lorries, and they pay for it. So my dad traveled through this. So I think I don't know what route was that, but apparently these lorries go all the way to Khartoum. So my dad ended up in Khartoum, and the life of the early, I can't say them that, like the Southern Sudanese who arrived in Khartoum by then, it was a very interesting lifestyle. It's a very simple lifestyle because what do? You arrive at the stage and then you say your name because there were no phones, there were nothing. So you arrive, you say your name, and then you say you're from which tribe. So it's like Suga Shabi. You say I'm from this tribe. I'm from Bor. Then they say, okay, okay, there is a house of a Bor person in this and this area. Then someone picks you, takes you to that house, and then they ask you your name. Probably somehow you ended up knowing, and that is how that is your hotel now. That's where you accommodate. It was not a very complicated. So my dad ended up there, broke totally, and he studied in Sudan. He stayed in a lot of people's houses. Ended up meeting my mom because as Southerners we lived in a very poor lifestyle in Khartoum because the system in Sudan basically was made in a manner that anyone who is a dark skin had a very hard time fighting land. But if you're dark skinned and you're also not Muslim, it's even worse. Tell these guys to be a bit slower. Hey, Madam Jota. So now I grew up there. I was born there in a very. My mom did. My dad did. My dad was studying. He finished his high school and he was doing a lot of casual work, trying to look for work. My mom brewed a lot of local alcohol in the slums in Khartoum. I was born there. That's the kind of the constellation of the setup of where I grew up. I have very very to no recollection of anything to do with my village. And then the larger part of my family were also now cut in Uganda because of no communication. So you will not get. Interestingly, by then, for you to get information about people in the village, we have to get it through people in Australia or in the US because they are able to get the information to Uganda and then they will make a phone call. So these people from the US, from the diaspora, will make a phone call to us telling us, hey, who died or whatever, this one has a child. It will take time. So I grew up there. I grew up. So my dad ended up getting some jobs, and then he now got jobs with NGOs. So he will kind of move throughout Sudan, Eastern Sudan. Spent some time in Darfur, in Al Fashir. I spent some time. That's Western Sudan. Then I spent some time in Eastern Sudan. So kind of my dad transitioned through this, and the southern identity in the north. It's a very oppositional identity. You're a Christian because you're not a Muslim. You're a Southerner because you're not a Northerner. You're dark because you're not Arab. So the whole identity of the South Sudanese is an oppositional identity. And if anything, one of the crises that we're having here, because most of our identity was built against something. It is never for something. I mean, maybe it was for something to some extent, but it is mostly against something. Oh, we are not cattle keepers, we are this, we are not this. So I think I actually grew up studying in a lot of Islamic schools. I remember when people are doing the Islamic religion class, we would go out. So I spent some time outside the class because we are not attending the Quranic lessons. And we'll be seated with the other boys who are also Christians. To be honest with you, we were very nominal Christians. Christianity for us was more of an identity than anything to do uh, uh, with a deep conviction to some extent. So I kind of grew up in that setup, and and to be honest, there was a lot of indoctrination of the Southerners in Sudan, and it's a very subtle indoctrination. So you find that people, the word rebel, for example, it means something very abhorrent. So like, oh, these rebels are these. Even John Garang, actually, majority of my life, my early life, you picture John Garang as someone who has horns, like as an animal. And then even like I remember when I was in Eastern Sudan, so there was a front. SPLM had a front in around Sawakin, around Kasala, just a bit off that. So you find that like there were like southern Sudanese who were like in the army, in the Sudanese army, They will come to us with the stories. Oh, you know, we went, we saw these rebels, we beat them up, and we're cheering up. And even when the army are moving, we're like cheering up, like, "Yeah, you know what?" So in a way that you kind of you grew in a very subtle way, you adapt something, and then you find in a very subtle way, you find like anyone who is Arab is like rich as a vehicle, what growing up. So the southern identity didn't mean much. So after the independence, we came back to Sudan, and I got a chance to. We came back to Southern Sudan, 2011. That's my first time kind of coming back. No, the second time I came in 2009. Then I came in 2011, and I got a chance to now go and study in Kenya in 2013. And that was like my first shock of life, because before then I've never seen black people like rich. Like I've never seen that. I've never seen in my life. I've never seen like dark skinned people owning shops or hotels or driving cars or like rich. Like I've not seen. Like most of the Southern Sudanese who were like slightly affluent in Sudan were politicians. Were politicians who they have some leverage. I remember you kind of see hear the son of Abdel Baghi, you hear of like Lama Call, you hear what these are the people who kind of had something, but you don't see South Sudan. So when I was in Kenya, I was so shocked. The second thing that shocked me in Kenya, everyone had their tribal name. So my name on my passport is Nelson James Kwaje. So I have my name, which is Nelson, and then I have my dad's name, which is James, and then a surname, which is Kwaji. So all of my life I've been called Nelson James. So when I went to Kenya, I was shocked. Everyone is like, "Oh, Diambo this, Diambo," and people are like, "Why do you have two English names? What? Why is this?" So I was just like, "Oh my god!" I was just like, so I was just like, "Oh no, this is something totally wrong." So I truncated my name. That's how I ended up with Nelson Kwaje. I was just like, no, I'm like, I cannot deal with this. I can't be like Nelson James. Like this is like everyone here is what. And then I was just like for my first time to see like like black people who are not influenced by any. Of course, Kenya has its own colonial history or whatever, but you see black people who are like rich, black people who are professors, black people who are white, black people who are what. So I kind of like now I being in Kenya actually made me kind of go and dig because I have not even learned my mother tongue. So I felt like so disconnected. It's as if like it had it's an experience where you like it took me going out to come and kind of look back in. Then I'm just like, oh my God, like I really need to get deep. So I was kind of calling my uncles. I'm trying to find out my roots, trying to find out the meaning of my name. I'm trying to find out everything, kind of like deep conversations with my parents. And then now coming back to the question of kind of like Southern South Sudanese identity. So now you find that like right now when you're in South Sudan, it's like you find like the South Sudanese identity like means a lot of things to different people. um, and now you're trying to kind of like unify people around something, but it is a very flimsy thing because now in South Sudan, the most strongest thing that South Sudanese kind of coalesce around is the struggle. I think that's the most thing that like you cannot find a South Sudanese who cannot identify with the struggle, whatever part of the divide, and I think that is a very kind of like central thing to the South Sudanese identity. But in a way that I really, to be honest, I don't think we enhanced it to the way that it to mean something. Because now you find that now the struggle that we have now you find out okay we have the identity of the struggle, but then people are like no, I fought in the bush, you did not. I own this country, you don't. So it didn't we didn't build it to what it means. um, and I think that is the problem because nations are made as with stories, and these stories are you find that when find that in the US they said, you know what, they said give me liberty or give me death. It's these are narratives that are made, and these narratives that shape national identity. We find out like the black people in the US, they talk about the emancipation, they talk about Juneteenth, they talk about the underground railways. Those are things that you kind of they happen, but then now through literature, through education, you kind of make it into something. But in South Sudan right now, we cannot agree on anything. Like up to now, we're still debating whether we actually had what happened in 2013. You can have like two South Sudanese, you ask them, you have totally opposite experience of that. Someone tells you this was cool, someone tells you this was not a this. You cannot agree on anything. You cannot agree on 2016. You cannot agree on 91. You cannot even agree on the foundation of what the SPLM movement is. Yeah, you just mentioned the name Samuel Gaitut. Like you are going to dig like at some. So then, how does a nation come to consensus with something? And this is a soul searching. This is not one experience. You find that in the U.S. or in the West, there was a time statues of some people were very glorified. But then, after awakening, people have to revisit. They say, you know what? Maybe having someone who owns slaves in the middle of this university is not something that we need to deal with. And people start kind of demolishing that. They're like, you know what? So nations are built to kind of revisiting this thing. I think right now we're not doing that. Like we're not kind of having honest conversation. We're not going back. There are people right now who did bad things. They have not even confessed. They have not gone through reconciliation. They have not said anything. I'm happy for my brother here. He had his mini re-encounter and kind of trying to revisit his past. But like as a nation, we haven't done that a lot. And I think that is something that kind of takes us a lot of time. And this is something a lot I ask even people in my home. And at times I used to remember my dad when he was alive, and he saw recipes. I used to have a lot of conversations with him, and I would ask him, what happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? So that you understand and you kind of. So to kind of bring it back, now what will happen with this new generation with this issue of the internet and what? To be honest, I think there is a lot of affinity now because the internet. I usually tell people that the internet is like a room that has about 8 million people, but everyone is a hand reach away. So there is a lot of people, but everyone is just like less than a meter away, a tap away. That kind of brings people together. Now you see like someone in Unity State dancing to Lord Warab, or okay, so or other people are saying, you know what, maybe I should sing Lord Warab in Toknat. So this is a very interesting way of now trying to kind of unify that. Or you see someone like Browina, for example, who is like Browina is the boldest representation of whatever cultural representation, but he's proud of it. And a lot of young people are kind of getting into that. I think that kind of closeness and that cross-cultural exchange has a good whatever. Now the problem is that in a state of conflict breaks that. So you can build. So here you're building Lego pieces. You can kind of like spend like weeks kind of setting it up. It end up looking like some city or what. But in case someone comes and pulls the the pieces apart, all that goes to waste. And I think we are now, since 2016 and since what we are kind of like rebuilding that through songs, through cultural exchanges, through this dialogue that we're having right now. Um, but then the only way that you can keep it is there is political will to kind of push this. And I'm really thankful for the diaspora individuals. I find that the basketball team, that's also a unifying factor. There is a lot of that, but it needs a push. It needs a national agenda that says, you know what, maybe we should try to have a consensus with this. Maybe we should forgive on this. Maybe we should move from this. Maybe we should try. And sometimes even including trying to say that maybe we should not call some things. You find tribes in South Sudan whose name is being called something else by other people. Some people call some people Jurchol, while they say we're not Jurchol, we're Luo. Okay, so what should we try to kind of revisit that and say maybe we shouldn't do that? There is a lot. Some people call other people Nyaga, whatever. These are all things that we need to have a national conversation and a consensus around so that we can move past this. I don't want to be too philosophical. Let me stop here.
Yeah, thank you. I think for our conversation is flowing really well, and we've kind of burned through time very quickly. So we will just continue. But if we want to have a bit more time to go through other interesting questions, we might have to be a bit more concise. But I wanted to expand on one of the remarks that you actually touched on, which is really important, about the fact that at the moment as a country we have not been able to formulate our struggle in a way that it becomes something that we can all jump in as a form of nationalism, which is actually a good point. And I think this is where programs like what we are trying to do here comes in, where it brings all of us together. Because prior to starting this series of conversation, what I had in mind is like there's so many different tribes in South Sudan, and we don't know one another. It's hard to bring people that don't know each other to work together. It's chaos. You can never. It's hard to do that. So when you bring people together, like how we are here, the four of us, and you and for example, Jacob is a Dinka and he has his own network of Dinkies and including some of his relatives from Nuer. And also you're unique to this conversation because you now know us from different tribes and you know a lot of other tribes and a good following of your people from Pujulu. So you start to form a network of people that actually understand one another, and we kind of have trust when you work with different people. So um, as a takeaway from what we are all trying to do here, we can help each other to develop connection. That will also help with the point that you touched on before, Nelson, about the formation of some sort of like a national identity. So in terms of the information, so we recently have started a society. So that's the Alaran society, and then the U-turn, and we do a lot of book reviews because I think everything starts when you are informed. And for example, although you are in the sub-Saharan Africa, you have traveled and you have read, so you are very informed. So if maybe 20 or 30% of the people in Juba were like you, that will be maybe 20% or more of the problem will be solved, because people that don't think are very easily deceived. So um, so just to be able to have you on board with us, and also we will exchange a lot of other information later on as well, and read together. That will help with the national identity. But I don't want to take away the conversation. I'm just a passive listener, and I will leave it to Alqual to just keep us direct. But we can have a bit more conversation. We got maybe another half an hour to 30 minutes. As long as our responses are concise, we will be able to converse more.
Yeah. Yeah, Isaac, before Akwal said, I just want to thank, you may see me, I'm just talking to the people. So Duarte, Jacob, Luca, Jacob Awan Mathian, I mean, thank you so much. This conversation, we are also talking, but we are watching. So we couldn't thank you enough. And that's what I believe this is what the group is trying to do, is to have a dialogue and honest. So we are seeing your questions, and thank you so much.
If they can all join our Facebook page. I know Luca has subscribed to our society, so that would be nice. But Okwal can include the link there for our Facebook. We've got some good book reviews that you can enjoy in the meantime, and you can always reach out. I have an email there, and we can have more conversation.
So hold on. There's this question briefly. Can I answer this? Luca is talking about Tumuthiang. What is it?
Yeah, that is what we asked. That analogy has caused many people to think, what is truth?
I know. So let's think about maybe Dr. Isaac. I need
No,
to
it's
think.
a hypothetical horn, Jacob. So when so when I was very little, I might have still be 6 at that time. So it's like when you go to a new place, right? And there's already kids there or people that know that they want to, huh?
Okay, so yes, you're right. So look, I hear it is. So Thiang, when we talk about Thiang, let me just describe. It's an animal. Often it's similar to what we call gwil, if you know gwil. And Thiang it's like almost like a marinyang.
It's an antelope, yeah.
It's a type of antelope, and it's literally, the horn is like this. So when we kill them during the animal time, that is it's literally you have a horn of Thiang. It's a physical thing. So what people ended up using in the cattle camp is, because people know. So let's say it's your first day, you've never been to the cattle camp, then they say Tumutiang, go give me Tumutiang. In Isaac Din, the small circle, and then Isaac is an inside joke. Let me put it that way. Isaac would say, you know what, Tumutiang Kwaje has it, and because already Kwaje and I say go to Kwaje, and then Kwaje say, oh yeah, you're right, you got to fake it good. Akunya Philip has it. You will be wondering in the middle of the night to the point that you realize this is hypothetical. It's non-existing. And then now you are initiated to Wood, okay? And then next time, if you know somebody send you to Mutiang, you're like, no, I've been to that block. You guys, have tricked me a lot. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. So thank you. That's what they asked. I just wanted to add to that. Yeah.
Thank you, doctor, for explaining it. And even right now, I know what it is. I haven't been to cattle camp and killer wood, so a lot of things. My cattle camp has been educational system, which is Western educational system, and we've missed a lot of those things. And it goes back to what Nelson was talking about growing up in different settings that you know give us exposure to different reality of our identities as communities, but also as a nation. And two take away from Nelson, one from problematic side of things that our identities were formed as opposing something. He's either opposing other community, opposing an ideology, opposing something, something, something. And those opposing forces, like those antagonism, the conflict within these identities, are something that we cannot, without enough consciousness, we cannot fix at the moment. But then Nelson also shared something that maybe a possibility using the internet and the power of connectivity, where now we portray our cultures, globally. For example, I didn't know about Pojulu until this Lomuda guy came dancing, like, and now I dance it, and I want to post it. And my husband was saying, Rhoda, if you need to be known for U10, you don't dance. So I haven't posted that, but I have videos in the house dancing, and I like dancing Lomuda dance. I like dancing Browina and all the other, those are putting our cultural things that we are proud about, through songs, through literature, through arts. And these are some of the things that, but then you also mentioned tension, which I want us to follow, that sometimes we can build something like this, and then something happen, and conflicts happen, and all of us run back to our own, protective roots. And that brings me to the next question, and I will start with you, maybe now, Nelson, and then you can pass it on to Dr. Atem. Is that how have conflicts and division affected the ordinary uh, lives of families, individuals within our communities uh, in the past, and continue to impact them right now while we try to build some bridges across the globe? And what practical steps can individuals take to support healing and reconciliation? I know it's one story was shared by Dr. earlier, but from your own perspective, your own experience, what are some of the positive stories of reconciliation that are happening? And how can we be so resilient that something as good as, cultural pride that we do cannot be just cut off because a conflict erupted in 2026 and we all go back to our tribal paths?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, on the what is the impact of this on individual basis? I think you can see like like the when you look at the what is called the POCs, the protection of civilian sites that are around it. This is an interesting thing. This is something that we never had to that extent. But now there are like kids who are born in 2013 and they lived in that POC. I think by now they're like 13 years old. Like that is wild when you think about it. And there are people whose whole experience is around that. Their whole experience is shaped by that place. They don't come outside. People got in there because of fear, and then they remain there. Now that kind of create an identity. For me, I think that's one of the most horrific things. And you know what thing with conflict is that once it happens, it is very hard to roll back a certain issue. Even when people flee a place, even after something becomes peaceful, because they have an emotional and traumatic experience, it's not they are not just going to come back. Ask the UN how struggling they are in just trying to. I was in Malakal last year. I was in Malakal. I was in Bentiu, Ropkona. Like in Malakal, for example, we have like people who are inside the POC from the conflict in 2016. During the day, they will come to the town. At night, they'll go back. It's a very hard to change that kind of experience, and I think that's one of the most horrific kind of stories, it kind of ruptures the societal divide. Even here within Juba, we still have areas that are around that. I like there are few stories. So like I know of a group that is called what's the name of this organization? So they work in Jongle. So this group what does they work through the spiritual leaders. So they go to the spiritual leader in Akobo, they go to the spiritual leader in the Murle area and what, and they run dialogues with them. I was talking with this. There's a guy called David. He's Australian South Sudanese. They will walk for like telling me that they will walk for 6 hours to go and meet the spiritual leader. There's no network. There's what it's telling us at times they tell us that they walk for 6 hours. You go there, they're like, oh, he did not show up. So yeah, you have to like kind of reschedule or do stuff. So there are a lot of intercommunal dialogue things that happen. We have religious groups that are also doing the same. We have these peace tournaments, and there are so many of these that people can do individually. But I think the most important thing is like you can grant as an individual is you really need to raise your kids to be decent human beings. And I think that's something people we actually don't give people credit enough. If you can impart in your kids or people who are under your custody, if you can impart in them the values of decency, of respect, of trying to appreciate human beings, appreciate people for who they are, it goes a long way. It goes a very very long way in kind of, and that's one of the things that you can do as an individual. And also like when you have to, I do a lot of mentorship. I have a team. My team is probably like close to 30 people, and I also within the hub we have about close to 500 members. So I have a platform. Through that platform, you can
So,
actually impart knowledge and impart a lot of values in young people, and even through this platform. And I think that is the best thing you can do because imparting in people's life that kind of actually goes a long way. Like what Dr. Jacob was saying about it, like all these his cousins who came back, and he's now sponsoring them, sending them to school, sending them to all of this. As far as some of these people are concerned, he's a stranger. They probably haven't known him all his life. But the decency and the kindness that he's extending to them most likely will impact something in their life. They will probably view life from a very different lens. And I think that is a very important aspect that every South Sudanese should do. Thanks.
mm. Nemsol, I was just gonna add what you said about the mentorship program. So I think us at Alaran as well, we try to collaborate and get on board with mentorship programs. I'm sure Aqual also at the U-turn they do mentorships as well, and I think it I'm really keen to be involved with people back home. But your team seems rather professional, so it will be easy to get in touch with you guys. The problem I have back home is you find people, you can create meetings with them, and then they don't show up. So
They're hustling, man. They're hustling, man. Like the fuel is through the roof. Like
so
people are looking for a seat.
I understand, yeah. But what we've realized is that we are also really having a hard time here because even though we are working in a functioning system, things are not also as easy. So we just want to create a forum where I'm sure for people back home that are entrepreneurial, and if they learn to fish for themselves, then it's just easy for them to take care of themselves. So if you're looking for more conversation regarding the mentorship, do reach out, and we will be able to have better conversation, do some book reviews, a lot of other things, and we may see how we can work together. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Thank you again, the Isaac, Akwal, and Nelson, and our viewers keep going up between 10 and 19. This question is very personal and it's very, very deep to the heart of South Sudanese. So it seemed like God always put me in the middle of the conflict. In 91, I told you about it. But in 2013, I took an American group here. We were going to my village that we have constructed a clinic because we said, we have to build a clinic back home to help our people. So when 2013 happened, I happened to be in Bor, and it was not pretty. So it's affect not only me, but all 64 tribes. It really started out with just fighting in Juba, and to the point that I ended up being rescued by the American. So I have seen it both. The way it affected people, and this is why this dialogue is important. part of it is part of exaggeration. No, not exaggeration, but like tribalistic mindset. Let me put it that way. For example, it's having a old wound and somebody keep putting the salt into it. I'm a practical guy. I like to use example. Some of the Dinkas, easy to come to me and say, you see, these people, this Nuer, because they know already I've been affected in 1991, right? It's perfect classical example. They say, you see, it's them. Oh, Nuer again. Big general term. Nuer did it again. So put yourself in my shoe that has been affected in 91. The common sense, what these people are fishing out is to side with them, right? Which you can see I'm already vulnerable. I could side with them and say, yeah, let's go. I'm going to retaliate. Unfortunately, they didn't get that from me. Why? I'm wise enough. I grew up under the SPLA, SPLM. I'm a bit old school. That Dr. Garang brought people across the world. Isaac, you talk about history. Our forefathers knows how to bring the 64 tribe during the difficult time. They know what it meant. Garang was asked, what's the issue of South Sudan? And he said, Sudan is too deformed to be reformed. He said, you know what united Sudan is not religion. It's not it's not all the things you think. It's Sudanism. That's why 4 million people showed up when he was in Khartoum. He has a message of unity. I remember South Sudanese was so frustrated with Dr. Ghana say, you know what? 2.5 million people have died. Why don't you just give up on just give us South Sudan? And I remember when he would say, if you just with your Kalanchikov fight, go to the border where you think there's a border, put your gun down and stop there. But let me continue. Garang was fighting for a lot of unity. Our people knows that. But also our people intentionally has turned South Sudan to polarization because of the political will. Like I just use myself as an example. Is to go retaliate and retaliate and retaliate. Retaliate doesn't build unity, doesn't build nation. But back to the forgiveness, when I told them, yeah, I understand what they did to me. And here's me at the individual level making peace with my brothers and sisters and nieces. So the difficult part is at what point it has affected everyone. We know in Juba there was a lot of targeting. Even now, this is still targeting. And by the way, that has translated to the diaspora because of the technology. Technology is great, but technology is a problem. You see now these different tribalistic warriors. Your platform is good because you try to have a sense of national identity. But you go, every single tribe now has its own platform online, batching other tribe, batching so and so, blaming blank the government and what have you. So the community is so confused to the point that we don't want to come together. South Sudanese are very smart. They're genius intellectually. If they come together, if they can fight for 22 war, you cannot tell us we cannot do a dialogue to have a peace and reconciliation. It is so it's what happening in the country I'm in now. The country I'm in now, which is United States, when when some people said we want to take our country back, people who think they own this land now are trying to kick everybody out. There are some individual in South Sudan, maybe Southern tribe, think they own South Sudan, which is not true. South Sudan belongs to all of us. The moment we know that and just come together, the moment it's better. So it has affected all of us. Let's agree, it doesn't matter which tribe it has affected, including me. I survived in 2013. I almost got killed, and relative got killed. It's the same story you will hear across 6 or 4 tribes. There's no tribe has been spared. So our prayer, practically step, I told you before, but I'm going to repeat it. It got to be starting with you, individual. What can you do and what you cannot do? I cannot change political arena. I cannot. They don't listen to me. As I'm now nobody in a political arena. But what I can change though is talk to my family about the importance of forgiveness. That approach is practical, but unfortunately, it take a longer time. But it's easy to just blame one tribe. So my message, practically stuff, how to do peace and reconciliation is when we have dialogue like this. When I said I have forgiven you, you know, in 2013 I was evacuated to Rwanda. I was so frustrated doing humanitarian work. Here's me in America. I thought I'm giving back because that's what Dr. Garang used to tell me. You, Jesh Ahmed, you are the seed of the nation. I grew up after his lecture. He would give 3 hours lecture. Back then, I mean, I was not paying attention about education. I was starving. And come to realize now, Dr. Garang prophecy came through. The lost boys from different tribes, doctors, PhD, you name it. We got that in diaspora. Unfortunately, we cannot use it now in South Sudan because the environment is not conducive. But I never give up. So I was so frustrated. I'm like, I almost got killed in Bor. I had to be evacuated. But you know, God does different things sometimes. Guess where I was evacuated to? I was evacuated to Rwanda. I was mad, upset. I throw in the towel. I say, I'm done with South Sudan. Yes, me, the lost boy, going back to build my clinic. And in all places, the war started in Juba. You would think it would start outside of Juba. I'm like, what is this with Kawajat? What can I do? I'm just trying to do my little small part as South Sudanese. I was mad. I'm like, I would never come back to this country. I'm like literally furious. It's because I cannot keep surviving. I have 3 boys now. I need to take care of them. So I went to Rwanda. And you know what? I grew up with Rwandan refugees in the Kakuma refugee camp. Number one, it was at 3 a.m. It was very, very quiet and it was very clean. The next day, there was no insecurity. So, but my mental picture of Rwanda was when I share my stories of how difficult Sudan used to be, and the refugee from Rwanda was like, how horrible. So now I'm like at 3 a.m. with no insecurity. What is this? Then the next day, I went to the museum, the genocide, that 800 people were killed in 3 months. And I went there, I just cried like a baby. And you know what? That what made me return to South Sudan. I said, if Rwandans kill each other 800,000 with machetes, that's a passion hate. They're not killing with gun. And if they can have this peace, it's what gives me hope that I know a lot of South Sudanese have died, over 400,000 from just a conflict of 2013 to now. But I truly believe we have chance to have these dialogues, to get it together, to let the politician be politician. And all we just need is peace. We are very innovative enough. We have land, we have water. We just need a place to do business. And the politician in all of the 64 tribes, they can actually have the oil money. What we are asking as South Sudanese is not too much. Is give us peace, do your dialogue, eat the money away, but give us where we can have a dialogue, where we can love each other. So I think we should never give up. We should continue this conversation to have peace. You start with a neighbor. You started like mine, and then later on we'll come together. And if we are not doing this type of dialogue, it's getting out of control on social media. It's lashing out. It's like me saying something about my tribe here, and here I am in the AC. I say something very, very dangerous that could kill somebody in Juba. So that give a message too, that we, the diaspora, we are part of the problem. Propaganda is too big. So we need to reduce and hear people like Kwaji who are on the ground. There's difference between what I say now and sitting in Florida than Kwaji is saying the facts on the ground. So dialogue has to come. We have to continue talking about peace at the individual level, family level, and at the country level. We can challenge the politician if we come as united, as Kwaji said. Not to say, hey, I'm coming for your seat and I'm going to out host you. Obviously, that is a war. You're asking for war. But Kwaji, you told me about technology. If you go to Zol Kabir, somebody say, hey, Zol Kabir, you know what? If you need help with a computer, I will help you, because they don't know. Guess what? It's different than say, Zol Kabir, I need your seat. Get out of here. So the language, even your father, you cannot just say, you know what? I am in charge of this family today. you got to get into trouble. So anyway, back to you, Akwal. Probably went on a different direction, but I think the peace is achievable through dialogue. We have to have this conversation.
Thank you. It's an important conversation, and sharing those experiences, and bring personal responsibility. Challenging us to, to examine our own self as individual, and to also look ahead and even, instill these values of reconciliation, of unity, of order in our children, and not the hatred. I think it's very powerful. So thank you for that. You actually challenge us individually, but to give it back to Nelson Kwaje, and many people are contributing in the comment section, echoing your message. We talk about our individual responsibility and how we can, like doctor talk about how we can use our individual will, our individual power, and come together to change, the narrative of our people in our country. But what responsibility can community leaders? We have our community leaders who are not politicians. We have elders who have seen both sides, where there was no war and where there was war, and they can, and the wisdom of age, they have. We have young people with energy, with you know hope that can, help us. We have diaspora who have seen so many things. They have seen it, the Rwanda experience. They have seen here in Canada where, people are reflecting on the past and building, a future together. Nelson alluded that, and it just happened in Toronto, at the heart of Toronto, where I live, where a university named after a former hero who was, racist, was changed. They erase his name, they erase that history. We don't want to continue to keep it to the future. And that university was changed. They changed the name, they changed the history for that. So how can we use this platform in shaping the future of South Sudan? And where do you see the greatest opportunity? We today, four of us sitting here, say, if we put our heart and our mind to this one opportunity, this will bring more positive change than the rest. Take it away, Nelson.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's actually a very important. Um, that's a very important point. Back in the day in South Sudan, like chieftaincy and community leadership used to like really mean a lot. Even by the during even the Anglo-Egyptian rule, chiefs used to kind of be the centers of authority, reverence, and they adjudicate on so many things: issues of marriage, issues of dispute, issues of what, and they also provide wisdom to the people. And I think we, as much as we have a modern state now, we need to also like bring a bit of reverence and a bit of power to that. Because you can find right now, like a lot of the politicians that have abrogated the powers of the community leaders, either through taking the community leadership itself or taking the community leaders and substituting their powers. So we need to be a bit of that so that we have, we don't want to have a parallel state, but we need to have a state that has respect to the community and the community leaders can have a voice, even if their voice at times goes against some of the pronounced views of our political leaders. I think this tension, you see it happening right now, even I don't need to say much, but if you see this tension happening between the political leadership and the community leadership, where this one wants to uh, take, capture it, the community leadership, and sway it into a certain direction. So I think the first thing we need to do is we need to separate the both. We need to separate the community leadership from the political leadership, and we need to know what kind of powers is vested on who. And this can allow our community leaders to now give us a sense of direction and give us a sense of counsel and give us guidance, because people listen to them. They are centers of power. So I think that is something that we, as a country, we kind of need to invest in. And actually, Nigeria does that very well. Like in Nigeria, you have the government actually invest in the chiefs. Like the chiefs, they have they have resources that they get, and in return, they also help the government in kind of trying to pass certain issues to the community. And this can actually be very crucial. Like, for example, look at very crucial issues where the community needs to make a change about cultures. We have issues of FGM in some countries We have issue of girl-child marriage. We have issues of education, and we have issues of what is called vices and harmful cultural practices. Those cultural practices cannot be weeded out through government ordinance. Yeah, even a simple thing like using a mosquito net or using contraceptive or trying to test for even HIV. A lot of these issues, people look up to their community leaders. And if the community leaders say something, people follow that. So I think there should be a harmony, and we should be able to use to, first of all, honor this leadership and give it the necessary resources and ability so that it can also help us in maintaining peace, stability, and also kind of move us to the next generation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Doctor, do you want to add anything to this question?
Yes, this is a loaded question. So let me just highlight the problem and then I'll go to opportunities. One, the nature of our society has changed. I'm going to use, again, I like to use practical example. Let's use Jonglei State. What has happened in the last 5-6 years, Jonglei State is flooded. So it has uprooted the traditional authority, which is the paramount chief and the chiefs, all right? Because they were respected when we go to back home. Let's say I go back home in Twitch East County, I fall under a paramount chief Manyonga Jack, okay? But just to give you an example, now they've been displaced to Juba. You have a community association of, let's say, my small community or a big community in Juba. You now have politicians in Juba. You have the youth in Juba. You have the diaspora sort of in Juba through technology. Now, these are one leadership you brought. It has changed completely thing. It has changed the dynamic because now I could tell you the chief became vulnerable. They became vulnerable because now money is being used as sort of a evil thing. I'm sorry to say this. Those who are saying things now is who are powerful in South Sudan or anywhere in the world. If you have the gun and the money, doesn't matter. Forget about how educated you are. If you have a gun and you have the money, people will listen to you. So it has made the way of traditional leadership change, which make everybody vulnerable. So a person, Zol Kabir, whether it's in your tribe, in you wherever, this is a person driving the traffic because he has the money. So it has made the traditional leaders vulnerable where they are not independent. So think about it. If I feed you and eat and clothe you, do everything to you, you are doing what I said I told you to do. Now, who's the boss? If I do this to the chief is vulnerable. It's not in his own palace with his goat, with his cow. That has, I don't know about, I think this has changed the whole trajectory of leadership across leaders of community association or elders or youth and even diaspora. So with that being said, things are not going accordingly. People are just going with one system. Who has the money? And that's dangerous for the society because there's no independency. There's a saying that you don't cut the hand that feeds you. And that's what's happening. And that's why we are not independent because these youth are the problem, they're majority. So I could have my own youth loyal to Dr. Jacob because I give them something to do whatever I want. Isaac Kwaje, you have your own youth. There's no independent to think. But what if we have a freedom and a conducive environment? These youth are not loitering in Juba. They are cultivating, they're going to school, they're doing this. Guess what? They're busy. Nobody can take advantage of it, but there's no job. They're highly educated. But me, Jacob Zolkabir, I'm using them for whatever my ill intention. Let's say I don't like Kwaje. You have to be loyal to me. Don't listen to Kwaje. I'm just giving an example. Okay. So with that being said, that is the problem we in. So what is the greatest opportunity for positive change? Number one, do the best you can at your own capacity, whether in diaspora or in South Sudan like Kwaje. What does that mean? I have health insurance here. I can live okay, but I've been helping out with humanitarian. We have a clinic in Mangala. We have a clinic in Mar, and we respond to Sudanese refugees in Reng. I'm just a humanitarian. That's what I can do with my donors. I don't get support from any government. That's what I think I can do. Leave what you cannot do, which is the political arena. We can cry until Jesus come, but we cannot change politicians. Maybe Jesus can. So do we just throw in the towel, not helping people? No. You do what you do, like you're doing this show right now. Somebody will listen. It's about the quality. It's not about everyone. You will struggle like a youth that like Kwaje to see how we can support him to just even mentor these other youth. And over time, you have leaders. JFK said, it's not what your country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country. As much as we will blame the politician, I don't want everything to be blamed on politician. There's a responsibility. And I think the reason why community leaders, elders, youth, diaspora don't show up is because the political environment is not conducive. Also, the diaspora are part of the solution and they're part of the problem. So if I'm here and I have the money, I'm realizing now I can send the money to instigate the war or to instigate the problem. Instead of that money could be for development, is it's now we are falling into this unfortunate event in South Sudan where you have to have your way with money. The question is how you use your money for developing South Sudanese, or you use it for your selfish gain to destroy somebody. So I think it's both positive that let's do anything individually at our capacity. Let's lobby to our politicians. They will listen to us at some point. Say, hey, we don't want war. We want conducive environment. We don't want your seat. In fact, you can rule 100 years if you build the hospital, the clinic, the education. If you can give us the freedom to do business, guess what? You can. We are not interested in your whatever in your seat as a Zul Kabir. So I'll return it back to Kuala. I don't know if I answer your question, but that's one thing I could add.
You answered it really well, and I don't have anything to add on that. Just being cognizant of time, I want to ask two rapid questions. One is to bring back the conversation back to our tribe, to our communities, and to do some cultural cleansing here. I remember Nelson Kwaja saying when he was a child, and imagine John Garang stories, he thought it's something with horns. Someone told me that he was born with in a mysterious way, so I grew up with some misconception about him as well. But I want to bring it back to like as a collective. So maybe start with Nelson. And just a 1 minute question before we ask the final question. And what is one misconception about your community that you would like to correct? How has that
I mean,
misconception?
I mean, it's a big task to kind of to do, but I think like because I think a lot of so between the Bari community, the Bari speaking community, we have some misconceptions here and there. But I think a lot of the misconception that we have is actually across tribes that are outside our region. We have a lot of huge huge misconceptions. Like for example, like one of the misconceptions that people have is that we don't pay dowry, especially from the Dinka community. Whenever someone says, "Oh, your
Uh,
daughter is being married by someone from for you," they're like, this is the I'm not getting any cows." We do pay dowry. Actually, sometimes kind of exuberantly, others kind of more modest. So this is probably like one of the misconceptions that kind of across the cultural divide that kind of uh, that continues, and I think I want to correct it. What other misconception that we are not like tied to our culture? That, albeit because of the like when you look at the equatorial belt, there are like few things that you find because these are like kind of border tribes. So you find like the advent of Christianity and education had kind of penetrated these areas like way earlier. Uh, so you find that people had like people even if you go to the village, people they do the culture, but like a lot of most people are impacted by Christianity. than they are by like a lot of cultural practices. I mean, it's a good thing to some extent. So that means you kind of get rid of like polygamy and what and other things and wife inheritance, like a lot of this stuff. But also conversely, you also like have people kind of not attached so much to their culture. And I think this are kind of it's double-edged kind of sword to some extent. I don't think there is much kind of like because I even have misconception about my own community, so I'm not a very accurate representation of the community itself. And I kind of like have to excuse myself, as I told you, like Isaac and Akol. I'm actually borrowing. I'm keeping some security guards like stay way above their time because I was in the office and this is the weekend. But what I just wanted to say, I guess, well, then maybe I'll give my final remarks. I'm very thankful for this opportunity. I'm very thankful to Dr. Jacob for his amazing experience and also like the dialogue and sharing his own. Um, this is my second time to be on this platform. I was here before, thanks to Akol, whom I also follow online. We do exchange some pleasantries here and there. I think there is a greater work that can be done. Even for us here in South Sudan, and also among our diaspora. I know you. I think you people are based probably in Canada, but also like in Australia, we have a huge issue of diaspora. What is called like teenagers issues, and while like a lot of boys are kind of primarily boys are like really going hayway, and this could be an issue of culture. This could be an issue of identity. This could be an issue of so many things, but we have also a greater responsibility to raise our kids in this diaspora, where it's kind of like a different land, but ensure also that because the diasporas are a very important community to us in South Sudan. When you look at other countries, they have very strategic focus on the diaspora because they are a very good source of remittances, they are a very good source of foreign image, and they are a very good source of also of representing our country. So it's good that we're seeing a lot of these boys like gut or gut, I don't know how it's pronounced, kind of like sprinting and bringing us this. We need to see more of this. And the same thing also in Canada, we need to see more South Sudanese representing us in both education, sports, athletics, and leadership as well. There's someone who, Brian Adeba, he was vying for a seat. I don't know if he won or he did what, but he was in Canada. He's also was vying for a seat in his constituency. I think we need to see more South Sudanese doing such kind of work to elevate our community. Also, the same thing in the U.S., especially in these perilous times where there is a push against Black and brown people and immigrants in general. Nonetheless, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate each and every minute that you guys have spent here and also for hosting me.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you so
So,
much. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
I was.
it. Take it
Yeah,
away.
yeah. No, well, before I respond, it sounds like Kwaja, you may need to say your last whatever word because people are waiting for you. So, Kwal, maybe you can ask whatever the last question to him. People are waiting outside for him, and it's getting late there in Juba. Then I can just finish the rest of the few questions
No, I
later.
actually stated, I said my last words.
Oh, that was
Those
your
are my
last word.
remarks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming from there. The vision for South Sudan in the next 10 years, I believe we need peace.
Before you talk about the vision, clear one misconception about your tribe so that we
Oh,
go away clear.
yes. Oh,
And
that's
Yeah,
a good one.
conclude
That's a
with
good
this.
yeah. I think we can let
Also,
Nelson
let him
talk
clear
from
the
there.
misconception about lost boys.
Oh, now
Because
you
I
now
heard
you
they're
talk.
snatching people's wives.
Yes, yes. So the Lost Boys, we are okay. Here's the misconception: Lost Boy and the Dinka. Number one, this is a political misconception that I realized in the last since 2013. People think this government is a government of Dinka, and the more I realized to look at it critically, no, it's 64 tribe. It's a government of those who understand each other and do whatever they want to do. So it's 64 tribe. That's one misconception, personally, political I see. You know, the Lost Boys is unique. The misconception about the Lost Boys is they think it's some people think it's only the Dinka. but we were very diverse. There's a lot of different tribes who came here. It happened the Dinkas are the majority. And let me just say this. People don't know this. Those boys are the most generous generation we will ever have. We came and we educate everyone. And I will give an example. When we go back in my own family and all this, people don't even know us. Everybody you see in Juba, in East Africa, we educate them. But now there's Zol Kabir in Juba. When we go back, they don't even know us. Just that's another misconception. But we do it not to be glorified and be thanked. It's good to help other people without anything expected like that. So I think the Lost Boys have a potential to be the future. However, some people, not everyone, others are grateful. Some people have taken advantage of our generosity and turned that into a vulnerable way that, they think we don't know what to do. There's no, cows, right? Dinka will never give a cow like simple thing, right? But we will give like 1,000 easily. That's 2 cows. And people don't know this. And then the misconception that we cannot stand as the diaspora actually is somebody will call me and say, Jacob, give me so and so, just give me 100, just 100. The word just turn us off because we just stand for 8 hours to get that 100, but we try to, but it's very interesting because somehow in Juba, everybody is rich because 100 is just nothing. So there's those a few misconception, but I think we can all work together for a better, good South Sudan. So thank you, Kwaje.
Perfect. Do you want to provide your close remark and then we'll close the show? And Nelson, feel free to drop off. It's too late at your end and we'll close in a second. The closing question is looking ahead, what is your vision for South Sudan in the next 10 years? What gives you hope? And what must we do collectively to make that vision reality, Doctor?
Yeah, so thank you again one more time. This is my first time here. I always see you guys live. Thank you, Isaac and Akwal, for hosting me and Kwaje. So in the next 10 years, I see a peaceful South Sudan where there will be a peaceful transformation of democracy, where environment, all of our 10 states are free, that youth could just have security and protection. We just need a conducive environment. So peaceful South Sudan where you cannot be intimidated because of what you said, where you could be listened to provide for your family. So I think it's a peaceful transition. I think what I have heard election is in December of this year. I hope there's a peaceful, conducive environment where citizens feel safe that can go from diaspora or back home to cultivate, to do business. What give me hope and do collectively together is this conversation. We have to have a dialogue until we have peace. There's no way out. Reach out to other tribes. If you're a particular, I know the biggest tribe in South Sudan, probably Dinka Nuer, and reach out to other tribes, have friends, have dialogue. Network goes a long way, not just only among South Sudanese, but in Canada. If you don't network with American people, American government, and then you come here and say, oh, I'm just South Sudanese, you cannot just network by yourself as South Sudanese in Canada, Australia, and the US. You have to also involve the host nation. That means you need to understand their culture, you need to invest time to create that trust. So we South Sudanese, we did it before, we can do it again. When people pick up the fight in 1983, it was a simple dream of Dr. John Grant, but it ended up involving 64 tribes. So it's not like what we are saying here cannot be done. It just may take a longer time. We need more people to talk about peace, forgiveness, to just focus on your own responsibility. integrity come to play. When you're in your own tribe, like let's say a Dinka, what am I saying about other tribe, other 63 tribe? If I don't have friends there to understand their culture, guess what? I'm going to be promoted. It's probably something negative about that tribe. But if I know them, I will be the full defender and say, you know what, the Pajulu people, I know them because of this and this culture. Now we are seeing it in social media. That's why we know the Pajulu dancing and all that, uh, which I find fascinating. I love it. Um, so I think it's dialogue and peace are critical, and it got to start with me. I cannot expect peace to just all of a sudden, voila, there's peace in South. No, I gotta go through forgiveness of myself. If I think that I need the other 63 tribes, then I need to reach out to them to be a good company. If I just think I am happen to be from a particular Dinka, like it's big, and I don't need 63 tribe, which is one is completely wrong. Two, that South Sudan is so big, I cannot occupy it by myself. There's a room for all of us. There's a room, as you know, Jesus always say, there are so many houses in my father's house. This is how it is, South Sudan. We have wealth, oil, mineral. We have educated people across the world in diaspora that could come and work. So we just have one prerequisite: fix South Sudan by having peace. Fix South Sudan by having dialogue. You know, even if you hate somebody sometime, just like close your mouth, hear and listen to what they say.
But
Hear their perspective.
just for regarding to that, Jacob, I wanted to just, it's a bit of a question, right? Because I just to add for you to elaborate on. So sometimes like it's very common for our people that we want development, right?
Mm,
Or we want peace, or you want things to be functional. But then the way I see it, when I look at like the US, for example, as a case study, look at Australia, look at Canada, there
mm,
are certain things that need to be put in place for a country to work. That, for example, include your ability to set up a system, your ability to be disciplined. But I'm not being optimistic. I'm not being pessimistic. But our people don't have that. Just even the discipline to say, okay, let's have a conversation for 1 hour. We are all going to talk 10 minutes each, and this is what we want to answer. No one won't be able to do that. And it's a gigantic task. But then people
yeah.
hope that things will be done. So how is that going to be possible?
So just to elaborate what you said, I remember our children now. I see them. They said when you hear our father, because now the lost will have families. They said, "Oh, and Kibijamaret actually know that this person is going to talk for 2 hours." When they said the child would come and say, "Hey, I'm not." Our dads and our parents, "Oh, I'm not going to talk too much." Our children knows us. It's that guy. That person is going to talk for 2 hours. So, what is also interesting is that there's some characteristics of us. I don't know where you got it. Maybe South Sudanese in America, in Australia. I would speak for America, where you have to clock in on time, right? We're just talking about simple thing, simple task. I have not seen a lost boy that I know has been late to work, not even a second. Very impressively, they show up to work. You know why? Because there's rules and that system you're talking about. You get fired and you're not going to get the paycheck. They understand that. But if it has been our function, and I saw it in South Sudan, let's have a function on time. Oh, they come 2 hours late and they will act there's no apology. So it's like even completely shocked me. How do you go from your work? You're not late. But when you are in your so-called South Sudanese culture, you are late. So it become a mind game. It's basically pick and choose what is priority to you because we know for sure we can pay attention. I think that translate. I went to South Sudan. I work a lot in South Sudan. When it come to 12 o'clock, no, 1 p.m., people go lunchtime. They never came back. And I have seen that work hard, here in the West, is important. Work ethics. and they don't come back because there's no accountability and nobody's going to get in trouble. They watch the boss, make sure the boss is coming, and then they act like they're working, which is you're cheating yourself. So if we're going to build a nation, it's not going to be built through cheating ourselves of not work. You actually put some work in, some system in. And I remember I was being criticized that you are like Kawaja, you are on time, you want to do things the way you want to. I find it that when I go and work in South Sudan, I actually do work, and people like, you're making us look bad, and it become a problem. People like, why are you working hard? Because that culture of not working hard in the system. So I think you're right. We need to change that system.
Yeah. So should we then say, because sometimes I'm a little bit pessimistic. I don't like to say, okay, I'm hopeful or this will happen in 10 years if I don't see a clear path. I rather say we are doomed. That's how I think.
Uh-huh.
So I don't tell someone and give them a task that they are not going to accomplish. For me, even if a South Sudanese person asks me at the moment, what will we be in 10 years? I will tell them we are doomed, we are finished. Because the
I see.
basics are not there. But I will also say that these are the steps that you may be able to follow. And then should you accomplish those things, at that time there will then be a hope that something good will happen. So for me, yeah. So for example, I was talking to Okwal about it before. It's not even a South Sudanese problem. Is a lot of the people here in the diaspora. It's so difficult to
Mhm.
contact one of us and say, there's a project that we can work on. Will you be
Mm.
available to meet at this time for us to talk it out? They will give you time, but they may not show up. They will not even reply. But at work, at my own profession, I do that all the time to like other scholars that I don't know. They will either respond back and say, I don't have time. This is not interest for me. No, thank you. Or they will never
You,
respond, which is a clear indication that they're not interested. Or they will respond and say, give me a time.
yes, I
Yeah.
think you're getting now. Let me bring back, my mind is going to shift to diaspora because you're bringing up a good point. Yeah, you know me very well now. We're better close. Last year, this year, I was invited by the North Sudanese community to be a keynote speaker. It was a keynote speaker. And to be honest, I don't think I ever got that in my community. And the reason I say this is I think we, the South Sudanese in diaspora, I don't know if we understand the word collaboration and partnership, they don't translate well. Collaboration is what you and U-Turn are doing. That is a true partnership. But my experience, because I work a lot in the community, they take it as competition, and they think that they take it like you and so you think you know better than me. They really take it out of the context. And then to your point, it doesn't leave a room for dialogue to do things. Kawajat and our American friends and the Canadians say when somebody say collaborate, that you sit down, you do an MOU, say, okay, here's my strength. Here's what I know. Like you are a neuroscientist, right? I'm a public health person. I cannot just pretend I know anything about the neuroscience, right? You stay in your lane. So I think that is something that in diaspora we have a new challenges in addition to challenges going back home. That is, we have our kids now. We have taught our kids. Nowadays, you see these people go on Facebook Live, bashing each other, trashing each other. What do you think our kids gonna learn? If I'm here, my kids gonna run, and I'm like cussing out so and so. So I think the partnership. The reason here is, let me put you to, if I hear you correctly, back to what you can do, you as individual, because it is individual that set up the system, right?
Mm.
And you test that system. What I used to do, I'm a collective guy. Oh, let's go as a community and let's do this. That has not succeeded. I failed so many times. But when I said, okay, here's my plan, and I need them, I can let them participate, but I have a system. I'll give you an example. For the last 18 years, running the nonprofit in South Sudan and you collect money here is difficult. So it took me 18 years to set up a system that I want. It's not perfect. That means I used to take Kawajat doctors, missionary to South Sudan. That's not fixing it. and I cannot be there in South Sudan every hour that we do. So the system took me a while to set up is I recognize that everything has to be done on the ground. So from building the clinic to recruiting doctors these people has been working with me for 13, 15 years to have an office in Juba, to have a person that I call and be reliable to me. You got to have also a trust. You cannot completely distrust everything. That's another problem we have in diaspora. Either trust or no trust. You have to build the system that you trust a little bit to gain that trust, just like in relationship or marriage. You trust each other and you learn to cope and what you can tolerate or not. So I ended up creating a system where we have a clinic, we staff it with our staff, and it's expensive. And this paid off this year when the US aid was pulled off, and it paid off because the system I see in humanitarian was horrible. Is we helicopter in, we come from the West like a savior, like Jesus Christ saving, and we're not. We know where to be Jesus Christ, right? But if we can teach them and have the system, the South Sudanese, we believe in the doctors to do their work. They are the one that I end up building them. And that has given me a leverage that I could just raise money here, knowing that they can run the clinic. But it took me a while to build that system, is what I see. The humanitarian agency didn't know. They would go and pay so-and-so for 6 months. Here's the problem with our healthcare. It's a continuous thing. It's not a one-time thing. So I think you can build a system just using my small example of how you build a system that could be sustainable, which sucks. It takes a long time, but also work with them to teach them how to do that. And there's people who will attack you and say, you think you know everything, and you get discouraged. And my problem is I keep going back to them knowing that they will not listen to me. I have to keep pushing, which is so frustrating. So that's what's happening in the government, okay? There are people who are competent. They know what the heck they're doing. But because it's diluted to some of those people who are potentially lazy, they don't want the system. They want the chaos. Because when there's a chaos, there's no accountability. But when there's a system in place, so let me say, you can see these people being fired and let go, and then the same people being recycled, right? Well, in our CEO world, you will have, if you are in charge of the company, let's say the CEO is whoever in charge of the country, right? You supervise. And so if you get fired from this docket, why would I give you this docket? Because the system is not as lean, it's not as clean as it is. It's a system that is frustrated those who know the system. Because when you try to do the right thing, it doesn't fit well with them in their system. You get kicked out. They said you don't understand, and you all this, unless this country was built on constitution. So in the US right now, the only thing we are hanging, on the thread of what we call the constitution and the American people knowing their rights. That's why you see these things that are people are fighting with the current administration, because they're breaking everything into chaos. You know, in Africa, to get rid of anything, you get rid of the constitution. The constitution become you. It's the gun and by force. Because if there's law, and you will hold that person accountable. So our people are somehow, maybe African, you know this.
So Jacob, just to bring the conversation back, right? Because so that we can conclude. Because I think I was just adding before, because it is a question. I like to be pragmatic. Even I think maybe 5 years ago, I could tolerate the meetings, but then now I don't have the patience for it. I usually switch off after 2-3 minutes. That's just me. I don't, and I am not. I am inclined to admit it these days. So when I'm in a conversation where because I don't like it usually when I ask something and the conversation just branched to other spaces. So for the question that I was trying to follow up, it was more of where we should direct the conversation in the future, and for our viewers and also even the people that are trying to establish different system, that is not good enough to say that we should have a glamorous countries in 10 years, because we know it that is impossible, because we have no steps. That's what I was trying to get at. So it's like saying that I will have a plane next year, and you have not even, you don't have a plan on how to get the plane. the budget it requires, the pilot
Yeah.
and everything, and you just say. So that's where I was heading. So
I,
I just wanted to leave the conversation there so I can give it back to Akwal, and
yeah.
and also we can conclude, because after that we have a few more things to finalize before our session.
Yeah.
And I also want
Yeah.
to let you go as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
just want to add what you were talking about. I've been in a phone conversation for 8 hours one time. And then I realized I'm like, I could have Uber for 8 hours and it's a lot of money. But
Yeah.
to your point, you as individual build the society. And what I could tell you, I think I'm more hopeful if there is one prerequisite put in place like peace and conflict. If we have that because of human resource we have now in outside of the country, in the country, we are brilliant enough. I think we can do so much, but it's depend on that prerequisite. Do we have a conducive environment where creativity will be allowed, where different resources will be brought in? So you're right. If there's no that prerequisite, there's no free and fair place or a conducive environment, it would be difficult. So I see your point, but go ahead, Aqua.
No, thank you so much. I just want to if you have any other closing thought, I think we come to an end, and I am really grateful for this conversation. And I don't know, Isaac, do you have any summary, and do you see this conversation and the next future conversation will lead to the outcome we envision, which is it might not be practical to achieve the 10-year vision, but at least will give us a starting point to to join with other people with like-minded groups and networks, as Dr. Jacob mentioned. If many people are talking about peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness, we will definitely, reach the future we envision. We just need 20 to 30% of people doing this work, and we will be in the right path. So I just want to check in with you, Isaac. Do you see it that way? And I will close the show if there's nothing left for
Yeah.
this
I,
first episode.
okay. I think we can close the show for today, because I often have a lot to say, but I don't. It aligns with a lot of other things. But I always think, like, let's say for me, when I do my experiments, for example, when I make an hypothesis about a particular disease, or I have an outcome that I have in mind, what I usually think about around that is how I will get there. So saying that I will achieve something and you have no clear goal is almost as if you did not have anything in hand. So with all of us, we are very optimistic, that I know, and it's a good thing to be optimistic. But what I think is missing is that we need to have a clear vision, and then we need to have small goals on how to incrementally achieve the ultimate goal. So in our conversation, and then also to observe what other people are doing. So for example, if we want to befriend other countries that are well off, like the US here, or Australia, or England, they have a systematic way of doing things. And if
Right.
your way of doing things doesn't align with them, they will discard you. They're not going to waste their time, because they have a refined system.
Right.
So if we want to be friends with them and also have them to interchange with us, we need to know how they are doing their things as well. And for example, time is one of them, where they are very efficient. You can't sit for
Mhm.
1 hour and you do nothing. So if you're there and they tell you, talk to us about why Alaran Society and the U10 are trying to bring change to South Sudan, and you take half an hour lecturing them and going in a tantrum, they're not going to invite you next time, because that's how they do their stuff. But if you explain to them concisely our vision, and you pinpoint exactly where they can help, and you highlight to them something that they will be of interest to them, they may show up another time. And Jacob knows from the examples that he gave me in our previous conversation how important it is to make sure you also align with other cultures as well, so you can bring them. So I don't want to say a lot, because it's that there's a lot to unpack. But whenever we talk about plans in the future, we also need to consider other people. So it's a conversation for another day, because we've got more than 15 to 20 episodes. It's something that I would like to iron as we go along. But yes, but that's kind of where I wanted to emphasize. I wanted to just emphasize that small point.
Well, Aqua, do you want me to go now or?
Yes, yeah, 1 second.
Yeah.
Summarize
I
it.
want I want to thank Luca. I love this conversation. If you guys look me, I keep looking at every single conversation. Luca, thank you for your kind comment and your kind words. I'm seeing also some of my lost boys, Abraham Chan, watching from because I shared from Juba. What I want to encourage you is continue this conversation. I didn't realize we were the first episode, so hopefully for a good or better, no pressure is to have more conversation to come, Isaac. And if you guys need my help, I truly support you, young generation of innovative like this. This is a system and a rigid system because it's not as easy. You may think that you put this together simply, but no. It's just to get on the stream yard. You need a little bit of technology and having a conversation. And the beauty is you have the audience who will go watch later. So please do not be discouraged. I know along the way it's going to be a lot of discouraged. Like I said, our people, what they are known for is to discourage someone to do their thing. In America, when somebody said, I'm going to the moon, they said, yeah, you can do it. We South Sudanese, we say we're going to the sky. They say, yeah, okay, you
No,
are crazy. You're
we have a space academy, right, Jacob? So we do hope to go to the moon. I
yeah.
don't know how we will get there, but we do have a space academy.
But the point is, this is one thing I love about Western society. They even if they think you cannot do it, they're not so rude about it. They say, Jacob, I think you can do it. Even initially, they know you cannot do it. So let's encourage one another on this platform. You're going to grow a lot of great people, great minds from different tribes. Just to keep talking, keep bringing people back, and to be authentic. There's a power of storytelling. I grew up that way. When we are very authentic and vulnerable to each other, then next time so and so will open up. If I'm like, especially we men, we have this mask in South Sudanese because we don't want anybody to show weakness. We don't want anybody say, I'm weak, sobbing and crying and all this. Our society don't condone that. You are really a man, just be still. But we know that from public health, it's a lot of anxiety, stress, and it's not healthy at all. So one thing I would say, let's invest to understand diaspora. I think we are having a new generation of our kids. They have no idea about South Sudan. How do we make them to know South Sudan, to even be attractive, to even think about going back to South Sudan? And it got to start with us. It got to start with people on the ground to make it attractive. I love your show. I could go on and on, but being an American, I will just stay there. But I love your show that our people could watch, and it's a place that we just need to be vulnerable with each other in a nice way that we can build bridges, dialogue to build our country. Let's reach out to people in diaspora. They have a lot. We have a lot to contribute, even financially. A lot of people will have jobs. Our kids will have jobs. Who knows? They may go to NBA. But if we channel this into building nation, building South Sudan, this is what Manute Bol did. Manute Bol, rest in peace. I remember he would take all of his money from NBA to just feed us. And it's part of the thing that why I give back, because when somebody is giving back, it requires all of us to give back through knowledge to all this. He made awareness about the Lost Boys story. We are well known for people like him in NBA. Use your platform wherever you can to promote South Sudan in a positive way. I know there's a lot of negative, sometimes negative outweigh positive thing because you either have been hurt in South Sudan, you have bad experiences in South Sudan, you have been turned off by the way South Sudanese are leveling themselves in the diaspora. So I see your platform to grow. a long time, but just be patient. Today I saw the highest was 19. Maybe I don't know how often people come, but the beauty is they can go watch this what we're talking about. So Isaac, thank you for introducing me to Aquala, Philip, and all of you. We're just here to be supportive of truly come if we can add some value. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
also.
you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Jacob Atem. Such a pleasure to know you and to learn from you. You brought so much wealth, so much, contribution to this conversation today. And as you say, and your encouragement is even, heartwarming. And we need your help to let the world reach out. We need to invite more people from different tribes. So look within your network, and if there are folks that you think will contribute to this conversation, we will definitely reach out to them and bring them on. And we hope to engage you later on when we turn this conversation into a knowledge product that will be used for the purpose of nation building or community building. So thank you, and thank you everyone who have joined us today for the first episode of the Bridge Dialogue series. I know we've gone over time, but because it's the first, so we are so hungry. We want to stay
Right.
See,
here for hours.
now I feel bad. It's in DNA in us.
Yes, but for next episode, which will be August, second week of August, it will be shorter, will be brief, 90-minute maximum, and will be led by Isaac Poole, and I will be supporting him like he did today. So thank you very much. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas, challenge assumption, reminded us of that our experiences may differ, but our shared future depends on our willingness to listen, to learn, and to work together. So if this conversation resonates with you who are watching and who will watch this, please share it with your family, with your friends, with your online community. And we'd love to hear your thought as well. Thanks for those who have engaged in the comment section. We'll read more thoroughly next other comments and we'll respond to them. What stood out for you? Please share what conversation you would like to have in the next dialogue. And of course, until next time, we hope to see you again. Second last Saturday of August. We'd love to have you back on this platform for a second episode of the Bridge Dialogue series. So thank you, everyone. I would like to close the show. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Doctor. See you next time.